Jeff DeForest, Michael Lubie. Lubit's very happy to welcome this gentleman to the program. It's always great having a basketball conversation with him. And think about, how great this guy is. That after throwing a Henry Finkel reference at him, he still volunteers to be in our program. Suggesting that you would have Hank Finkel shooting a three. We welcome Ron Rothstein, the coach, to do the show. And, of course, doing a great job as a Heat analyst now in his most recent capacity with the team. Coach, how are you? I mean, we haven't had this feeling here since like 1969. I mean, this is a real Cinderella story. How are you, my friend?
First of all, I do question my sanity every time I say yes.
What a way to ruin a morning, yeah. Do you believe, Ron Rothstein, and obviously well-versed in coaching experience, that if Eric Spoelstra was an assistant on Red Klotz's staff, that the Generals might have gone 500 against the Globetrotters? Is he that good? Is he that good?
Well, now that's, come on now, be fair. You got to be fair. Come on, man.
Who would fit the category, I guess? I don't know. Auerbach?
No one. Maybe Lubie, but not you.
The time. Wake up with Defo. Welcome to the Defo Show.
We forget, man. I mean, hail to the octogenarian. That Ron was in his 80s, and he still has this quick and clever wit. You froze there for a second on the screen, though, Lubie. I was thinking that's a bad way to start a Peel Yourself Off the Mat Monday. Good morning, everybody. Great to be with you at Peel Yourself Off the Mat Monday, a very celebratory Peel Yourself Off the Mat Monday here on the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest and a dapper-looking Mike Lubie. Lubitz, looks like you even out your tan. I mean, you must have had one hell of a relaxing weekend. How was it? Did you do anything special on Mother's Day? Or did you go out to some restaurant that was overcrowded and incapable of handling all the action there that'll soon be the subject of criticism on Let's Eat South Florida? I couldn't believe it. We had a reservation at 12. We didn't get seated until 12:01. 12:01. Can you believe this? The nerve of these people. And then, because we had a party at 20, they put 20% tip on the check, automatic tip. We didn't want to tip that much. Okay. How was the food? Other than that, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, how'd it go? I mean, I'm down to the point now. I used to be a wild man, right, Lubie? Although I did spend a lot of time lounging around the pool, but mostly sitting there naked and with a parade of, different people coming in and out of the house. So it was a terrific time. But now on the weekends, I'm relegated to, I'm happy to do nothing, absolutely nothing on the weekends. You work for the weekends, you work hard all week, and then you think, okay, it's here, my time. And then the time comes up and you're like, I think I'll just sit home and watch playoff games on TV. Beautiful outside, right?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. But other than that, I did have the one day, my usual Saturday with the Mustang at the casino, which was okay. So lately it's been all right. The action's been good. And that's a good omen leading up to the big Atlantic City celebration that we're going to be having. I don't know if you're inclined to come up there. I don't know that that's your scene so much, Atlantic City, New Jersey. What do you think?
No, I'm not going to
Take the lovely Shirley down to the Jersey Shore there, go to the beach while everybody else is pounding away at the Borgata Racebook.
Okay.
Come back together, walk the boardwalk at night, holding hands. You walk by the convention center. You say, hey, I saw Arturo Gatti fight here a couple of times.
I did not.
The closed down pier that I guess, it'd be open in the summertime, wouldn't it? The pier there, it's usually got like snow on the Ferris wheel and everything. That's a nice little thing. And I don't know, is saltwater taffy? That's no good for your teeth, is it? Is anybody buying saltwater taffy anymore? That was a big delicacy there.
Yeah, I'm good.
How good is it, man? No good. All right. Anyway, it's very, very much in line with my thinking for the upcoming weekend. Is that ease into it? You don't want to go to Atlantic City for your 72nd birthday on a losing streak. So that's been going well enough. We had a nice day Friday out at Gulfstream Park, and then a beautiful evening Friday. The sensational South Florida winter sports season continues. It'll become cliche, and it maybe has already, to always have to throw back. Well, you know what, Lubie, we had two teams in the Final Four. Think about that.
Yes.
But the truth is, to put it in perspective, that in and of itself would have been enough to make this maybe the most spectacular winter sports season in South Florida history. But that's only been enhanced by the success of two number 8 seeds, one in the NBA, one in the NHL. The Florida Panthers looking great Friday night in overtime. Another exciting game. They get deadlocked at 2 with about 4.5 minutes to go. Toronto with signs of life. All of those Maple Leaf fans, you talk about the city of false hope, Lubie. That is Toronto, Canada. False hope. Because they think every year that they're going to win the Stanley Cup, and every year they don't. Going back to, 1967? Was that the last time they did it? We've asked this 100 times on the show, and it seems so long ago that we can't even come up with a date. But it was 1967, their last Stanley Cup championship. Imagine that, one of the fabled franchises in all of sports history, the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they could do no better than that. They're even behind the Dolphins in terms of most recently won championships. Although the Dolphins, we're catching up, aren't we? I guess we can't catch up until we win one. But 1973 here, 67 there. So 6 more years of futility they've endured. And they had high hopes, did they not, Lubie, going to OT? Now, it's not like the Panthers ran away and hid in this series. But they were the feistier, more energetic, more opportunistic team. And your man, Sergei Bobrovsky, how weird would this be? You've been writing this man's obituary, writing this man's epitaph since he signed with the team. It seemed like a good idea for what, about 10 minutes, Libby, until we saw him play?
I don't know. You were ahead of me. You started calling him blind. You swore that he had vision problems.
Yes. We signed a guy with a cataract issue. Unbelievable. A tick, I think we discovered. Did he have a tick? Yeah, he had one of those things where he does like some weird winking all of a sudden. And you're thinking, are you trying to tell me, like that you're saying something, but you really don't mean it? What is it that you're doing, Bobrovsky? Communicate with him. He was communicating with his banker. That's all anybody was talking about. That he was making his $10 million that Dale Talon doled out for him when he could have signed any number of other attractive free agents. But we did have a definitive need, and that stood up. I mean, who can win without a goaltender, man? You can't play empty net all the time. And it seemed like we were doing that with the Florida Panthers, with Bobrovsky. Although the last couple of years prior to this one, I mean, he reverted back in the early portion of the season. But what was that the result of this transformation that the French Joe Philbin, Paul Maurice, who is no longer the French Joe Philbin? In fact, if anything, he's more like Maurice Chevalier, is he not? Like a dashing young man with a lot of nerve and confidence. Paul Maurice has led this team to the Eastern Conference Finals, but they win it in overtime. Let's start there. What did you think Friday night? I thought I was resigned to the idea that the Panthers were going to have to come back and win this thing in Game 6 at home. I don't know that I was rooting for more games. We'd have more to talk about here on the show because there certainly is plenty with both of these teams still very much alive. And, you would have to think of the 4 teams remaining in the postseason, and we still have one more championship game to be decided tonight before we go to the Western Conference Finals. The Stars and the Seattle Kraken, the improbable Cinderella Seattle Kraken, are still alive. They'll play Game 7 tonight. That's the lone playoff action tonight. I thought earlier that the Lakers-Nuggets series got underway tonight as well, but that's Tuesday night. They'll start the NBA Western Conference playoffs, and then the Heat will be in action against Boston on Wednesday from Beantown, and it looks like Thursday, although not official yet, huh? The NHL schedule, what's up with that? They have to make way for the rodeo or something? I mean, what's the deal?
I don't know. I was trying to look it up because I thought you were fumbling a little bit. So I'm like, oh, let me see. And I was like, no, he's not fumbling. It's not there. Because I was trying to look ahead, and it just has today's game and nothing else. I was like, that's
weird. It. Yeah. They haven't decided. They don't know what they're going to do. Gary Bettman, man, is going to come out with a schedule sometime later in the week. I don't know. When would they announce that? I guess it would be important to know. You would think that they could have solidified that by now, no? Are they really?
I get, put it this way. The Heat hadn't wrapped up, but they still had an idea, the NBA, of when stuff was going to be. Starting was telling me about stuff last week. So, I don't know.
Hockey just makes it up as they go. Hey, when do you want to play, guys? How about Thursday? Okay, sounds good. Get a couple of days off, man. Get some fishing in. See what happens. But both loom as possibilities to move on. I mean, you would have to think. I don't know that the Heat are going to be overwhelming underdogs to the Boston Celtics. I didn't see the odds on the series. They are, you say, 8-point dogs in the opening game.
First game, yeah. I don't know what the series is, but that's first game. Yep.
Celtics have been vulnerable at home throughout the postseason here. And late in the regular season, they lost some key games at home. I mean, it was surprising to see them lose to the Atlanta Hawks and then losing that first game in the Philadelphia series with no Joel Embiid. And then subsequent to that, losing yet another home game before coming back and beating Philadelphia on the road and then absolutely annihilating them in the third quarter yesterday. Disappearing act by well, Joel Embiid had a lousy game, and that didn't help any because James Harden did his usual all Houdini, man. Gone.
It's what I've been worried about the Sixers all year, and I sort of had to shut up because of the way they played down 2-1 and took a 3-2 series. And he's like, oh, I guess Harden has figured it out. Harden was really good in that series until the last two games. The last two games, Harden went back to being the guy we've known him to be in the playoffs since that finals against the Miami Heat. And Joel Embiid, who he did it again yesterday. I love how he's like, well, we can't do it alone. And I was like, who did it alone? You sucked. Like, he was horrendous.
He had a bad game, yeah.
What was he doing? And he was horrible in the second half of the game before. He was really good until like the third quarter in game 6. And then he did nothing in the fourth quarter. And yesterday, that was the entire game. It was like, dude, Al Horford's 36 going on 65. And you have a 4-inch height advantage on him. And you're way more athletic. Horford in his prime wasn't as athletic as Embiid. He's like, why aren't you just dominating? Like, it was like, I'm sorry. And I said he deserved the MVP because it was equal between those three guys.
I don't know. You know, I mean, you could have argued for other guys, but I thought he was deserving of it. That would have been my pick, Joel Embiid.
It was fine. It was equal between those three guys to me, and the other two already had 2 each. So to give a guy a third MVP when some of the, possibly like Shaq has 1, Kobe has 1. So to give both of those guys who are not better than Shaq and Kobe a third wasn't going to happen this year. So I could see Embiid getting it, but he was it's the juxtaposition between him and Jokic is really funny because Jokic is just a constant every game, and Embiid is so up and down. It's got to, if you're a Sixers fan, it's got to be frustrating.
Embiid looks a lot better doing it because of his size, and you see him making these athletic moves, and you're thinking, and also hitting outside shots. He just looks better doing it. Jokic looks like some slug that every shot is a lucky shot. And yet, he does it without leaving the ground more than a half an inch. His vertical leap might be lower than mine. It's possible, which, isn't saying much, right? Could you slip a piece of paper underneath Jokic's vertical leap?
Oh, no. Barely leaves the ground.
Just always in the right position, making the right play, making the right decision, and a catalyst in many, many ways for anything good that happens to the Denver Nuggets. But, all right, so we left the Panthers immediately, got going on the Miami Heat. It was sensational, absolutely a spectacular evening. Both teams closing games out. The Heat game against the New York Knicks, was a little more suspect. Knicks came, brought some fire, and it really looked like they had a chance to win it at the end. Down to 2 points after the Heat had opened up a 6-point lead late in the ball game. They get that horrendous foul by Gabe Vincent, where he nearly knocked out Jalen Brunson. Brunson goes to the line, makes 2. The Knicks score. They cut the lead to 2 points. They get a stop, come back the other way with a chance to tie or take the lead. And sure enough, Brunson throws the ball away. Julius Randle, very weak, kind of half-assed cut to the basket. Barely gets a hand on a ball. This guy was in trouble. Nobody's moving. And you had chaotic possession there by the New York Knicks with a chance to do something, and that was it. Lights out from there. They had to foul. They lose by 4. Heat failed to cover. The game went under, and you're looking at Thibodeau, man. I mean, talk about he had that schlep look the entire time, did he not? Didn't he look like some grousing rabbi complaining that the congregation had failed to meet their expectations for the usual contributions so that he could go and take a pick-6 pool out to the track? He did. He looked like a degenerate rabbi the entire time. Tom Thibodeau, who, I can't imagine that he would be in any jeopardy with the Knicks, but we see how fragile it is. Coaching status in the NBA as Monty Williams gets canned. Lubie, from the Phoenix Suns, Monty Williams. I believe he's the 2-time coach of the year out of the last 4 years. Monty Williams, and gets fired by the Phoenix organization. They had to part ways because perhaps his message was getting a little bit stale. And maybe Durant said, hey, listen, this guy doesn't know his ass from his elbow. That's possible. that might have been the decision maker there. All right, so let's set the stage here, Lubie. You have Wednesday coming up, the Heat and the Celtics in Boston, and your prediction on the series is, Andy says Celtics in 3.
Yeah, I like that one. I was like, wow, I don't even know. I don't think you can do that.
Do the Heat win a game on the Boston's home wood? That would be question one.
Possibly. I mean, he seemed to play well on the road. Yeah, I hate. I the fact that I hate. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the term house money, but being an A seed and then having Jimmy Butler be hurt the entire series versus the Knicks and having Hero not play the entire playoffs. I mean, I don't know how you use any term but house money to have that be the situation. No Hero versus the Bucks and beat them in 5, and then have no Hero and Butler not be himself. I mean, Quentin Grimes has become, I guess, Michael Jordan on defense, but to me, it was Butler's not himself. He was short on everything. He just didn't look right, and still win that series in 6 and control. I mean, you controlled that series throughout. You really should have. The 2 games you lost, you should have won, to be honest. They were playing with house money, and the Celtics were the favorite for most of this season. I'm sure they're the favorite now because people forget Denver exists. It's hard for me to see them being picked to win. I think it's going to be a series, and I think if anyone gets cocky nationally or in the greater city of Boston, they're dumb because they've seen this team the last 3 out of 4 years. This has literally been the Eastern Conference Finals the last 3 out of 4 years. So I think it's going to be a tough series. It's just hard for me to think that going to Boston Game 7, between refs, between what Tatum can pull out of his ass, between the way the Heat role players fall off in the weirdest friggin' times, to see them winning a Game 7 in Boston's tough to me. And
all right, if it goes that far, so you see it possibly going 7 games.
Yeah, I think it'll be. I think the Celtics win in 7.
All right.
Sadly.
All right. I mean, the Celtics seem to have a little bit more than the teams that the Heat have faced so far. Milwaukee, was not exactly right. Of course, Antetokounmpo was in and out of the lineup. They did win a game without him, but it didn't seem to be in total sync during that series. And the Heat got hot. The Heat were not as impactful on the offensive end, not as efficient shooting the ball. Certainly, their 3-point shooting fell back to more representative of what it was in the regular season, which was atrocious. And they still managed to prevail against a Knicks team that they didn't have a lot, of firepower. I don't know. I mean, quickly being injured was not a significant enough factor in my mind to influence the entire series and say, okay, well, that's what swung it in favor of the Miami Heat. But the Celtics can come at you with more people, it seems like. I mean, you have Marcus Smart, who is, a very, very interesting catalyst for a lot of good that happens both ends of the court for that team. Horford was playing his eyeballs out yesterday against Joel Embiid, still has it at 50 years old, as you said, Lubie. I mean, you would think that they'd be more effective digging up Bill Russell than putting Horford on a guy, but Horford still has his impact. Brogdon was a pretty good acquisition and change for that team. He's been influential. And, you have enough firepower inside with Williams and Horford to offset Bam Adebayo, and the Heat don't have another guy to counter. So we'll see. And as you said, Jimmy Butler was a little bit suspect in this last series, even though he was the high scorer in many of the games.
It was fine.
But,
it was great.
He didn't seem to be the overwhelming force that he was in that series. Obviously, he wasn't statistically. I mean, you could just look at the drop-off. But, yeah, the guy went from scoring 40 a game to scoring 19 a game.
Yep.
And not being as much of a force, and a constant presence, putting pressure on defenses with whatever he was doing, including all of those dipsy doodle moves that he makes that always get him to the foul line, where he ends up with 19 free throws. Holy Calvin Murphy, what are we talking about here? But still a toss-up. I would lean towards the Celtics winning the series. But then again, we've been going against the Heat all along, so why not be wrong once again? Omelet face. Yes. We'll see. I'm going to discuss that with us later on. And the Tuesday start to the Denver Lakers series. Can the Lakers win a game in Denver? That was the question I had about the Phoenix Suns. It turns out they never got a chance to get to that 7th game because they got slaughtered in Game 6. The Denver Nuggets do appear, I mean, on the surface, to be the best team that's left of the 4 teams that are engaged in the playoffs in the NBA. And I would think that they probably, I told you not to sleep on the Lakers, but it may be time to at least, start taking, some kind of a component that'll help you sleep a little bit better. No, maybe a little of that, THC, tincture. Whatever. What else do people take to? What is that pill that people take? You buy it over the counter, knocks you right out on your ass, and then you wake up the next day feeling like a zombie.
Not like
The hell is that? Yeah, I forgot about it. Yeah,
too.
it seems like a poor approach.
That's like fucking crazy.
Ambien, yes.
Like wake up in the middle of downtown Miami.
Yeah, you're wandering around with no clothes on.
What the ripper? Where I get this fucking ripper?
Possible side effects. Yeah, this may turn you into a fucking zombie. That's what the side effects are. All right. Well, we won't be sleeping on the Miami Heat, and we certainly won't be sleeping on the Florida Panthers. Great to keep this all going. Other stuff going on around the game. Philadelphia, you would have to wonder what happens to Doc Rivers. He has 2 years left on a contract. Did they pay him to get the hell out of there and figure the only chance they have to win a championship is to get rid of the good doctor? I don't know that was there anything specific that we look at with Doc Rivers and say, oh, geez, if it wasn't for this bozo, Philadelphia wins the championship. They did go to 7 games with a very good Boston team. Was it Doc Rivers' fault that they lost Game 7?
Look, at some point, and you bring it up with Spoelstra, he seems to make a difference in these games. Okay, Rivers goes the other way. Yeah, they were down 2-1 and they fought back to go up 3-2, and they were up 3-2 at home and laid a fucking egg. Yeah. And then they go into Boston and they were up 9 in was it the second quarter? Were they up 9 in the second quarter? I know they were up 9 in the late
first quarter of the game. They were running away.
They were up 9 in the late first, and then it fell apart. And to me, that's on the coach. Like, how are you not hammering Embiid? How are you not just pounding it in there and telling Embiid, go to the fucking basket? He's 60. I don't. The fact I'm telling you right now, I don't see Jokic letting Al Horford keep him in. I think Jokic is gonna have a goddamn field day if they face the fucking Boston Celtics. I'm telling you that right now. Yeah. He's old. I know Jokic is very similar in the fact that he's not athletic, but it's like a 4-inch height advantage. Like how do you not have 4 inches on a dude? And and Horford doesn't have like long arms. Embiid's arms are fucking like 7'8". Like, how do you not take advantage of that? How do you not just sit there living on dumping the ball on Embiid and just dunking on Al Horford? Like, it boggled my mind that Embiid let himself be taken out of the game like that and out of the series like that. And that's on the coach. That's 100% on the coach to me.
I don't know about that. I'm not sure. I agree with that. I mean, the other thing you have to take into account, and Andy's right on the chat line. I mean, look, a guy has a sensational game like Jason Tatum did, where he's making everything. I mean, literally, the proverbial Coke machine was in play very, very much in the shots that Tatum was making. And he was making them as a matter of routine, with the shot clock expiring, with nothing happening offensively. Then he's taking a ball to the basket and making these phenomenal drives, although they did allow him 4 or 5 steps on a couple. How come when the commentators see like an obvious walk on a move, as spectacular as the move might have looked, as athletic as it may have appeared to be originally, and then you look and go 1, 2, 3, 4 steps. How about that? 4 steps to the basket. And nobody ever says, hey, well, he might have gotten away with one. It's like, yeah, he did. I mean, they don't call this stuff sometimes when they see guys making spin moves. And the Euro step is as undefined as pass interference in professional football. I mean, just an absolute blatant violation of the rules. We'll get into that with Grant Long later on the program. All right, so good times for the local teams. Doc Rivers, you'd have to think someone in jeopardy. Joel Embiid, 5 of 18 in the ballgame, MVP of the league. Some people, speculate that maybe he's got some, dissatisfaction there with Philadelphia. James Harden likely to go back to the Rockets, according to reports. And I don't know that you want to bring back James Harden for another year, as good as he was in spots. If you can't count on him, as Tony Segreto would say, the big moment, then what good is he? This is a consistent disappearing act. This isn't like the Barry Bonds thing where he had like one lousy World Series and everybody said, oh, my God, he sucks in the postseason. But he'd only played like a handful of games. And then once he had a chance with the juice and the aid of Victor Conte and the Balco Labs people, why didn't he have – he should have just had like Balco Labs written across his chest instead of San Francisco. But, nonetheless became a terror in the postseason. And so that myth was rebuffed. And and easily put to rest. In this case with James Harden, it's happened many times. Almost every time you've been thinking, wow, Harden could really carry this team to a championship. He gets to a game 7 of a crucial, point in the playoff quest. And, I guess any game 7 would be. There's a statement, Lubie. A crucial game 7. He gets to, that point. And literally, I mean, has had, more than a half a dozen games where he just looked like a clown out there, no? This one, in particular, he was making clown plays. He really was.
It's every time. And I get it. So you can say, look, Maxey wasn't good. Harris wasn't good. Harden wasn't good. Embiid wasn't good. How is that Rivers' fault? Well, every time his teams are here, everyone's bad. That's fucking weird. It's a coach's job to get the best out of their players. I'm not saying Missoula did that with the Celtics. Tatum played out of his mind. So did Brunson. Brunson played out of his mind. Where are the Knicks? We've seen plenty of times one dude go off and a team lose. Like that's a load of garbage to me. The Sixers to me had better high level players. You're not Maxey, Harden, and Embiid when they're playing their best are better than the Celtics' 3 best players. They are. Where was Maxey? And Maxey's a good player. Where was Maxey? Where was Harden? The 3 of them fall off.
No, they were all horrible yesterday. Yeah.
Come on, and that's Rivers' story with every team. Like the professor, there's another
his
one.
halftime adjustments had to be brilliant.
It's horrible. Like
they came out and got shellacked.
And Tatum was great, and that's amazing for Tatum.
Yeah.
Who else was great for the Celtics yesterday? Who?
They didn't need anybody else. I mean, this guy was carrying them. It was a pretty phenomenal performance. You would have to say. I mean, when he was just lighting it up from 3-point range, it was great.
It was fantastic.
Yeah, but, I mean, a very high shooting percentage for the kind of shots that he was taking. All right, what's up with your man, Jean Morant? Is he going to be like an endorser of the NRA? I mean, is he the new Donald Trump? Or what is this guy?
What the fuck?
What on earth? I mean, could this man be thinking?
I don't understand. Like it was too much. It just happened. He just came back and left his team short because they had lost their chemistry because he missed the last 2 weeks of the regular season.
Right.
So he comes back for the playoffs. They weren't the same. And a week later, 2 weeks later, he's on video again. And it's like, come on, man. What are you doing? Like
Adam Silver can't be a happy man about this, can he? I mean, not necessarily a look that he wants to have representing all of the fine sponsors of the NBA. I would imagine his phone. He probably took it off the hook. No. Hey, Lou. Yeah, no, it's Budweiser. They want to know what's up with your guy.
And he was becoming a face of the league. Like literally, he was a part of that next group with Doncic. And like the stuff he was doing was really taking him to insane heights.
Yes.
Like I'm trying to think of another shit. Like Rodman was crazy and Jordan had his but it was a time where no one was covered. Like no one knew really how bad it was. Like this social media days, he's in video again. Like, come on.
With like a gun to his head or something. I don't know. Like he was doing an O.J. Simpson in a white Bronco.
I don't get it.
And I got juice in the car. Yeah, he's got a gun to his head. You're like, oh, what are you kidding me? Well, when I saw that, I really was amazed because I just seen this humble, Jean Morant interview with Jalen Rose, which was, a bit of a softball festival, you would have to say. But look, if a guy tells you, hey, I know I made a mistake. I'm okay. I'm glad I'm getting a little bit of help here, and I really needed to take a look at myself. And really, this is never going to happen again. And then like 2 weeks later, he's in some bizarre video again, waving a gun around like a maniac. I mean, does he just want to be a rapper or something? What is the deal there? I know that there's always this, relationship where ball players want to be musicians and vice versa. Do you think that's the case there? That John Morant is just a rapper that happens to have amazing basketball talent?
Oh, it's the opposite. He's not from this world at all. Like he came from a stable home and got good grades in school and went to college and did well. That's the thing is he's trying to cultivate this like hood.
Well, why did he go off the deep end here?
It's Memphis. He got with a bunch of guys either there or before that he
Memphis Mafia. What do you think?
I don't know that he's trying to cultivate this image of being hard. It's like, dude, you made it. The image. Get rid of that shit. Who needs that? Like, first of all,
this can't be. Sitting well in the NBA offices. You would have to think. No, I mean, Adam Silver's got to be.
Oh, he's freaking
like
out.
I said, fending off angry sponsors one after another.
Freaking out. This is bad. This is really bad because look, whether guns are legal or not, and that's fine. It doesn't mean he shouldn't be like showing off. He's a role model, and whether he wants to be or not, you can't just be like acting like guns are cool. Whoever likes guns, outside of these politicians who have to have the obligatory a gun shot, it's not normal to be in videos with it. It's just not when you're trying to represent.
Well, especially after the last incident. I mean, it just was a big deal, like not that long ago. It's not like he relapsed years later or something.
It was 2 months ago. Like,
my God. All right, the Dolphins, this is great. Why don't they just dig up Fuzzy Thurston like I'm always suggesting? They love to sign guys that can't get on the field for their offensive line. That's always a solution. Some guy who's played like 40 games in 8 years. He did it again, man. It's big news. Isaiah Wynn, a former first rounder. I guess if you're a former first rounder, that makes it a lot more relevant. But the Dolphins now going out there and signing this guy and hoping that he's okay.
And it's funny.
How many times have we said that? I mean, about a Dolphin acquisition. They're hoping he's okay.
Every time people want to give Greer credit, and I hold on tight to, he sucks. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, he made the moves that a fantasy football player makes. Like, he goes and gets Tyreek Hill. And that's fine. It's fun. And they won the same amount of games. Like, Tua needs to be protected. He didn't address the offensive line. He went and got Armstead and Williams, and that was fine. So he got the basis. Okay, so this offseason, finish it off. Yeah. No, he doesn't sign one offensive lineman until now, and he's signing retread. Guys done. Like,
there's a medical staff billed by the hour, you think? Because they must love it every time they sign a lineman. So this Isaiah Wynn has played 43 games in his 5 years. Lost his entire rookie season to a torn Achilles. He's had knee issues and other issues as well. And yet he was a former first-round pick, so it was a big deal yesterday. Miami Dolphins shoring up their offensive line with another guy that, unfortunately, can't get on the field, which isn't good. We have the PGA tournament coming up this week. That's another union of the Live Tour players and the PGA players. For some reason, there appears to be less acrimony this time than there was when they first got together again after the defections to the Live Tour by many PGA players. Including, some that still have some shelf life. It was a lot of all crusty Europeans, wasn't it? For the most part, that was making up this Live Tour defection list. I mean, the Ian Poulters, Sergio. It may have been a factor, early in tournaments here and there, but in general, probably wasn't going to win again in any of the majors. But Brooks Koepka, Dustin Johnson, certainly, Koepka was injured, and that compromised him and curtailed what was a John Rahm-like run that he was on, this guy. So they come back. They'll be competing, and that'll make it interesting. But for some reason, I don't know why, the conversation is not the same as it was about how, the players on the two tours literally despise each other and don't want to go anywhere near each other and would just as soon be attacking each other with drivers instead of hitting the ball. But that's coming up, and I'm going to get involved in another pool, Lubie. I realize this. I cashed in the first one I was in, and I haven't cashed since. That's true.
It's been a while now, too.
What was that, 5 years ago, man? So what's that, 20 majors?
Been a few years. I mean, you made a lot, so you still might be up, but...
I'm ahead. I'm still ahead, but...
Catching up.
Like I said, I'm hoping I have 18 Kentucky Derbies left, as I
to even everything
past my 72nd birthday coming up here. And you're thinking, really? Do you have 18 left, Defo? I don't know, man. That's questionable. Speaking of which, a legend checked out, Doyle Brunson.
Yeah.
You're familiar with him, even if you don't follow poker or anything? He was everywhere, this guy.
That's the guy
World Series of Poker.
Right?
The guy with the cowboy hat, the old guy. I mean, he had that real sort of old school Western Las Vegas poker style feel to him. And, he checked out 89. So finally the flop didn't go his way, but Doyle Brunson. It's funny, those guys, all of those legendary poker players, they're like in games, like, just sitting. And Jesse was playing poker when we were out in Vegas a couple of years ago. And in the room there, I forget where we were. I think we were at the Bellagio. And in the Bellagio poker room, there's Doyle Brunson at one table, that guy David Negreanu, who's real good. He's playing in a game somewhere. You had all of the big shots, and they're just like spread around the room. They're playing like they could have been playing with a bunch of, old blue-haired ladies. Imagine you're in there with like some killer Johnny Chan's at your table, and you got a bunch of blue hairs at Daniel Hyla. You think he's going to come away with the pot? Maybe so. All right, but anyway, he checked out, so that was unfortunate. We wanted to pay tribute to him. He was always very entertaining on TV with his style. The Preakness draw is today, and we'll find out who goes. Mage is going to be in the race, probably be the post-time favorite, as tries to win the second leg of Racing's Triple Crown. I'm not sure what else is in there, Lubie. I don't know. Not sure. I think Two Phils is out of the picture, so you don't have to worry about forgetting to include him. I don't think Forte is not even considered for this race. I'm not sure. I should be aware of the probables, but I haven't really looked at it. But I think it's going to be a real different look than the Kentucky Derby. Not the betting opportunity the Derby is, Louis.
There's nothing. The Derby's nuts.
Yeah, because everything is so undetermined when you get to the Derby, and now you have a little bit of a sense of what the form is of these various horses against each other.
What's the deal with Forte? Like he was okay, right? They just rested him because they weren't sure.
Yeah, it was a debatable thing, and they just went ahead and were extra cautious and figured, okay, even if it costs us a chance to win the Derby, better abdicate that and forego that than have the horse get injured.
So maybe this race.
I haven't seen anything that would lead me to believe he's running in this race.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I don't think so. I want to say no. I want to say no to that. I'll take a look at the field during the break if I can dig it up.
Yeah.
All right. We're coming back with more. Brett Tesser, the agent to the star, is going to join us, no doubt, zeroing in. I mean, he's become more or less our, Don Cherry on the Florida Panthers. Very astute Panther observer with his season tickets for many years, and a real passion for the whole thing. So we'll get into a little of that with Brett Tesser, the agent to the stars, and whatever football matters lie ahead. You had the schedule come out, and I'm with you, Lubie, 1,000%. I'm glad you're on board on the same wavelength as I am on this. I just can't get overly excited about looking at the schedule. The schedule is about the same every year, isn't it? Oh, look at that! We play Dallas on the road on Thanksgiving Day.
Who cares?
Okay, great. You know what?
Who knows who Dallas?
I'm trying to get out of May.
Exactly. Exactly.
Bills are stacked to the ceiling. All right. Forte troubles failed the drug test.
Oh, yeah, the drug testing. We never talked about that. Andy brought that up last
That was
week.
from last year, though, right?
It was like September.
Yeah.
Something in September. Okay, that's what it is. All right.
Even Pletcher is not on the level?
Yeah, well.
Apparently, he was taking the same crap I am to try and relax the, swelling in my hand there. Meloxicam. So, but I'm not running any faster, I can assure you, Louis. So I don't know how much it enhances performance. All right, we're coming back with more in a moment. Hialeah Park, great place to take in the Preakness. And, wow, they had a blast there for the Derby. They always do. And they have a big wine tasting thing coming up, like a real upscale event.
Really?
Taking place. Wine and food tasting.
It's very. We only have to talk to Frankie.
Very May-esque. I believe that's later this week. And you can sign up for that. Just check out the website, hialeahpark.com. Of course, gambling is their game. And you can gamble your brains out there and have a great time and have a big chance to win. A lot of jackpots. Steve Calabro has that casino humming, man, one of the best in the business at operating such things. He says, you know what, give the people a shot. That's what they want. They don't want to get just clobbered in there. So a lot of sad faces in my local casino. Everybody was getting just hammered on the slot machines. And, you're thinking, hey, could you give a sucker a break? They don't have to do that at Hialeah. They don't want to bleed you dry. They want to make sure you have a good time. And people are winning big jackpots and having fun. And the payouts are as large at Hialeah Park as they are anywhere in the country. That's the way they decided to play the game. And defiance of the fact that they could go ahead and make it much more favorable for themselves. They're that kind of people at Hialeah Park. That's what you want. Champion simulcasting room is exquisite. The poker room is absolutely great. All the food and drink opportunities are fantastic. And get a player's card. It gives you all kinds of freebies and amenities and entitlements that you wouldn't find anywhere else, even in some of the big corporate casinos. It's Hialeah Park. They do it a different way. It really is. You're like family there, and they mean that. And they've been together a long, long time, the entire crew there. They do a tremendous job. The synthesis of the old and the new is spectacular, and you should check it out for yourself and make time to get out there and punch away on the Preakness at beautiful Hialeah Park.
Okay. Is that it?
Oh, yeah.
You were doing all right?
You know what? I caught this Alcaraz out of the corner of my eye here. I'm watching a little of the Italian Open. And I want to throw it to a break is what I want to do.
That was the idea.
All right, watching this kid, he's sensational. But, he's already trailing in this set against some unknown. But coming right back. He'll annihilate the kid. Back in a moment with more on the Defo Show. Now that.
The time.
Thank you, Lubie, for the reminder. It's 7:42.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs, unmatched. Steaks, hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
The simple pleasures of this job, the way a stadium sounds when one of my players performs well on the field, the way we are meant to protect them in health and in injury. Less, more attention, caring for them, caring for ourselves in the games too.
The agent to the stars, the one and only Brett Tesler.
All right, welcome back to the show. Hey, peel yourself off the mat Monday. We're certainly doing a little bit of that right here on the program. Jeff DeForest and one Mike Lubitz with you, and happy to have you with us on South Florida Live. We welcome to the program, as we always do every Monday, and it is very appropriate to have this man on year-round. Lubie had booked Eddie Olczyk for this spot, and then we realized we had somebody that probably was as astute, if not more so, when it comes to the sport of hockey, and especially with his passion for the Florida Panthers, than Brett Tesler, the agent to the stars. Normally here to talk about the National Football League, but we can't resist, Brett. You're doing such a good job. It's like holy Don Cherry. Welcome to the program. How are you? You have to be feeling very, very good after that festive Friday night.
I'm feeling very good all the time when I talk to you, pal.
Good morning.
Beautiful. I like that, man. That's a good feeling, and we feel very much the same way. All right. I wasn't sure about that Game 5, if it was going to be Closeout City for the Florida Panthers. Bobrovsky, all of a sudden, how ironic would it be that this was a guy who was a subject in the punchline of virtually every joke that we could come up with about goaltending, blind references. I mean, some very distasteful references that we had made. How ironic would it be if he was carrying this team to a Stanley Cup? But here we are, and the closeout of the Toronto Maple Leafs was no small feat. What did you think about that?
Well, in regards to Bobrovsky, this is why they paid the man $10 million a year on a 7-year deal. I mean, this is what they were hoping and expecting to get. And, point blank, in the last 3 years, performances like this have been far and few between. It's been very disappointing. But the way he's playing now is, similar to what you saw earlier in his career in Columbus and, other places where the guy won 2 Vezina trophies.
Right.
And so if this is what he's able to continue doing in the next 2 series, provided we get through this one against Carolina, which is going to be quite a challenge. If he plays in the next 2 series, including the Stanley Cup final, the way he has in the last 2 series against 2 absolutely incredible teams, then the Florida Panthers can win the Stanley Cup because, the last game I thought he came up really, really big in the third period. There was a few defensive breakdowns where he single-handedly kept Toronto off the board and allowed us to win the game in overtime. So if that's the guy that we're going to have the rest of the way, then anything is very possible. And if for whatever reason the well runs dry or whatever, then it will be very difficult to beat either Carolina in this series, or what would it be, either Vegas or the winner.
The other opponent isn't decided
Yeah,
yet. You have the game 7 tonight, Seattle and Dallas.
Yeah. So it's just amazing when you really think about it, how daunting it is making it as the final wild card. I mean, first you get to face the greatest team of all time, and somehow you come back down 1-3 and beat them. Then you get to face, maybe the scariest, high-powered offense with, 3 of the absolute most dangerous weapons in the league. I mean, Austin Matthews, Marner. It's downright scary. And then you win that 4-1. And so, yeah, it's at a point where you can legitimately say anything is possible, but this team has to just keep playing the way they're capable of playing. And unlike the Boston series, where I felt like, there was a couple games there, especially that first game at home, where for whatever reason, we just weren't doing what we needed to do in terms of effort, intensity, physicality, toughness, all that stuff. And then it even seemed like maybe you saw a little bit of that in game 4 against Toronto. Maybe they thought, hey, we're up 3-0. We could kind of take our foot off the gas and try to win this one easily. That didn't happen. Well, against the teams they're going to be facing here the rest of the way, there's just no margin for error, no opportunities to take your foot off the gas. If they're willing to work hard, if they're willing to sacrifice life and limb and play that Florida Panthers style of physical, intimidating, high energy hockey, then, if you can beat Boston and you can beat Toronto, then you can certainly beat Carolina and you could beat whoever you'll face in the Stanley Cup final. So it's been quite an exciting ride, and I really, really hope all the sports fans of South Florida are enjoying it.
Yeah, let's hope they, and it seems like more people are hopping on board. That's for sure. But it takes a lot to wake this town up from the coma that they've been induced into over the many years of high hopes and, far from, expectations type of results. All right. That should be a lot of fun. Carolina, a very good team. They've been impressive in the playoffs so far. They handled New Jersey. I really mopped the floor with them for the most part. I think that was a 5-game series, and they lost that one game 8-4. That was kind of an aberration. Other than that, they're pretty much in command of that one. And I saw some of their opening series, and they look pretty slick. I mean, as all these teams do, it's great. You're a judge. I mean, how many times do you look at a guy and just by body language you have, when you're trying to decide, whether to represent a client or, get some kid, sign some kid out of college, and their body language just makes you think, wow, that this guy has it. And it seems like, it's far-fetched intangible, but body language and chemistry seem to be very much in the Panthers' favor, the way that they're performing together. I mean, they have some chutzpah, this team, which is good.
Body language doesn't always tell you if somebody has it, but it very often tells you if somebody doesn't have it.
Yeah.
So, when you're staring across that tennis court at Ira Winderman, you know you got him. And so,
he psyched out. It's 3-0 already, right?
Yeah. So, you could tell if a team looks a little bit scared or a little bit intimidated, or if their confidence has been rattled. And definitely when you looked at Toronto in this last series, you looked at guys like Marner at the end of that one game where Tkachuk is just repeatedly punching him in the face, and all the guy can do is try to smile. That just shows you that at that point, the Panthers really sort of made the Maple Leafs their bitch. And so if they can continue to impose that kind of will, that kind of intimidation against Carolina, which again is not going to be easy. Carolina is one team the Panthers have always had trouble with. And the odd thing is, the one thing you could go to when coming into that Boston series is, well, the regular season record against them is better than any other team that faced them in the NHL this year.
Yeah.
So you felt like, okay, at least somehow, some way, they sort of match up well, and maybe they'll have a puncher's chance. And then against the Leafs, our record wasn't as good, but that's where you could chalk it up to just different style of hockey. The Leafs basically played the style we played the season before when we won the President's Trophy and really floundered as soon as we got to the playoffs, just because that team was built to win in the regular season, was not built or coached to win in the postseason. And so that's kind of the category that Toronto fell into. Carolina always makes me nervous. Anytime you play them, regular season, you're going to see here in the postseason, just a difficult team. There's absolutely no weaknesses. They play tough. They're a really, really good team. Honestly, I'm as nervous about them as any of the other teams we've faced. And I feel like, again, you're just going to have to play as perfect of hockey as you can to beat this team in a 7-game series.
All right. On a different matter, I mean, it's 1-1 coming out of Carolina. Game 3's coming up. The Tesla seats, are they for sale?
Well, the truth is, in this world, Deef, I believe anything's for sale. But I have no intention. I have no intention of
Unloading them. Yeah.
There's things that come up where in the last series we had to miss a game. Something came up with the kids, and so we couldn't go. And in those situations,
you had to draft one night.
Yeah, that was the series before. So that was a tough game to miss. That was the greatest hockey game I've ever seen in my life. That was the one we won. Had to watch that one on TV against Boston. But so yeah, if something does come up and for whatever reason on the road or something with the kids again, then it's not a terrible thing to have to sell these tickets and be able to make some money on them, especially when you find out from your friends who sit around you that it was home fans that ended up buying them. That's even better. So,
good.
When one thing people don't realize about a hockey season, it's a long season. The regular season is a half a year. This isn't football where it's a 4-month season. This is a 6-month season, and it's 82 games, 41 home games, of which we went to a great majority of them. This year, my travels just happened to allow me to be around for most of them. And so really we caught most games. And so, when you've been through such a long, arduous, and in regards to this season, a tumultuous season, where again, right up until the end there, it doesn't even look like you're going to be making the postseason. When you somehow, some way get there and then end up creating the magic that you're seeing this team create, where you could legitimately at this point say, hey, this team could win the Stanley Cup. When you've come this far with this team and you've been through it all, not just this year, and I don't want to sound like some of the Panthers fans who've suffered for 25 years. We've only been on board, I think, about 7 years. But when you've been through it all and you finally get to this point where it's possible that this team could get to the mountaintop, you definitely want to be there to support it. So we've really been enjoying it. And again, to the people who haven't really followed the team closely over the years or who aren't the biggest hockey fans, I'll tell anybody who will listen, I think it's just the absolute greatest sport to watch and super, super fun sport to attend in person. And so anybody who gets the opportunity down here to do it, I highly recommend it. This would certainly be a good time to get on board.
Always good to jump on a bandwagon when things are great. And imagine, I mean, for the investment that people make, I mean, if you're in a position to do so, and not only could you make it back by selling the tickets for one game, but you might be, there for a Stanley Cup clinching game. I mean, that's projecting a lot, ahead of ourselves here. But, it's not out of the question, which would be sensational. I don't know that there could be much better, especially for a team that, had only one sniff at that. And that was, as you said, like 25 years ago. All right. What is this all about here, Brett Tesser? Let's get into this football issue because it involves a local team. And we were joking that the Dolphins eventually are just going to, like exhume the body of Fuzzy Thurston to try and patch up their offensive line. But did they do that again? I mean, they have a penchant for signing guys that have nothing but, very suspect injury issue resumes, and they did it again with this Isaiah Wynn. What can you tell us about this guy, and could he be an asset to the Dolphins, or is this just a real roll of the dice on a guy that's played 43 games in his 5 years in the league?
That's funny you should bring this up because 2 seconds before I came on with you, I literally was texting their director of personnel regarding a veteran lineman that I have who's out there that has had offers, but we're being very patient with things right now. So,
okay,
there are. I'm sorry.
No, I was thinking who it is, but but that I mean, this guy seems a little suspect, doesn't he? If you had a guy that actually was in good health.
So the guy I was reaching out about is an interior guy. He's a center guard. He's been in the league 9 years.
Oh, okay.
Started games for New Orleans last year at both center and guard. Helped New Orleans shut down Aaron Donald when they played the Rams and beat them. Shut down Fletcher Cox when they played the Eagles and beat them. And so this is a guy who teams have already reached out about, and we're just going to again be patient. And if the right situation presented itself in terms of the right opportunity, which could very well be down here because the team could certainly use quality depth and again experience, versatility. So let's see if there's any interest there. And in regards to Isaiah Wynn, I'd say that's a great signing, great value signing. Obviously, you didn't have to make much of an investment in the guy. This isn't a guy who's just completely old and washed up, so it's not a has-been. This isn't a guy who was a high draft pick that was just a complete bust. So this is a rare opportunity to get a guy who is a good player who still has a lot of good quality years left, but obviously he's had some terrible injury luck. And what did he have? The Achilles in his first.
He missed his first season with Achilles, and then since then he's had knee issues, and there was some other problem as well.
So, the Achilles thing, that's just a fluke thing. That could happen to anybody. It doesn't necessarily mean that someone's soft. It's not a chronic thing. It's, if you pick up an older lineman who's had a history of back issues and has missed time with back or neck or those kind of things, those are the situations there where you can legitimately and fairly say, or if a guy has a degenerative knee condition, you can say, hey, this guy is injury prone and this guy is, great injury risk. In the case of this guy, it's been a few different unrelated things. Guy's still young enough, still talented enough. So I think it's a great pickup, and that truly could be one where maybe this is the year where maybe as bad as the guy's luck has been over the last few years, maybe that's how good his luck's going to be over the next few years, and maybe it's going to be down here for the Dolphins. So very good pickup on their part, and that's what they're going to have to do because, again, you can pick up clients or players like my client I was telling you about who are good depth guys and guys who certainly could fill in, and that's very, very important because, as you saw last season, many of your starters at some point are going to miss time, and you need somebody who can really step in there and do a more than capable job. So you can find a bunch of those kind of guys, but as far as a guy who could really come in and increase the overall ability of your starting line, it's a little harder to find those guys. And so, taking a slight risk or gamble, if you will, on someone like Isaiah Wynn makes absolutely perfect sense. And hopefully that's something that pays off because they need it.
No doubt. Yeah. I mean, it just seems like we lead the league in signing guys that, have played less than half of the available games to them during their career and are always going to be suspect and very much, potent, and prominent on the injury list. All right. The schedule comes out. People like to make a big deal out of it. I mean, is there anything that you deduce from seeing the NFL schedule come out? I guess the curious point to me is you have, I think it's Jacksonville plays back-to-back games in London, which is really weird. One of the teams is playing like in consecutive weeks in Europe. You have games added, including a Dolphin-Chiefs game in Germany. How do players feel about playing these overseas games? Are they in favor of it? It would seem like it would be detrimental overall, in the course of a real rigorous season. And is there any significance that you saw in the schedule coming out for 2023?
Nope. As usual, you see the games that you expect are going to be the primetime games in prime time. You expect to see a bunch of the teams that are considered primetime teams in prime time. The Dallas is, obviously the Chiefs, Eagles. And so, as a fan, obviously there's a lot to be excited about when you see some of these matchups. But as far as the games overseas, no, the players do not like it. And it's one of those situations where this is football. This isn't like baseball where a starting pitcher goes on a 5-day trip and knows he's only going to work one day and has the rest of the time to sightsee, golf, drink, whatever he wants to do. These guys are incredibly, anytime football players take a road trip, they're under an incredibly tight curfew. The teams don't get there so far in advance where now on a trip like this, on trips like these, they give them a little more time. They give them a day to do some sightseeing, but it's not like, you or I taking a week-long trip to England or Europe with our wives or family. These guys don't have a ton of free time. And so it's a very long and difficult flight for these guys to make, especially the bigger guys. I tell a funny story from a few years ago. I had a guy who, an offensive lineman, big 300-pounder, 6'5", 300-pound guy who had to fly to England, and all he did was complain about it. And when he got back, he's like, "Man, this is the absolute worst thing ever." And he's like, it's something I hope I never have to do again. And then the next day, the team cuts him, and he gets claimed on waivers by another team who's going back to England. So he had to go twice in 2 weeks.
Oh, God.
And it's not a comfortable trip for the big guys. And I don't care how comfortable they try to make it and how first class they travel. It doesn't matter. It's just not, some of the clients I have, it's just not at all a comfortable way for them to be cooped up for 8-9 hours. So it's good for business, and, I get it. And as far as the Jaguars having to spend 2 weeks in a row there.
Is it the Jags? Yeah, I think it is.
That tends to be the team that goes to
Get
Europe.
rid of them, yeah.
But they're not so.
They're not horrible anymore.
They're not so. No, they're not so disposable at this point, and so I would say that it's actually a good idea to keep them there for 2 games, because now you don't need to show up so early before the first game to sightsee, and it actually gives guys time during the week in between those games to maybe enjoy themselves and take a little bit of the sights in. So they're not going to be there for 14 days. They're probably going to get there a day or two before the game and then leave immediately after. So good opportunity to kill 2 birds with 1 stone and actually take advantage of, again, the travel and everything that goes into this. So I think it actually is a more sensible way to do this as opposed to just having teams go back forth.
Excellent stuff, as always. All right, Brent, thanks so much. The insight into the Panthers, fantastic. The beat goes on, and we'll talk to you again next week about that, I'm sure. Hopefully you have some good things to report, and the NFL season is always very much in play. As always, my friend, you have a great one, and thanks so much for being with us.
My pleasure, guys. You have a great one, too.
Thanks.
All right, thanks a lot. Very optimistic about the Florida Panthers in the Carolina series. Like most people, acknowledging that once again, and maybe rightfully so, your feisty Florida Panthers are the underdogs in this series, and Carolina will be yet another tough out. But stranger things have happened. The West is kind of a loosey-goosey thing there. I've been watching a lot of those games. I haven't figured out the Kraken. I mean, a bunch of grinders. It really is Brian Scrudlin all over again. It's like deja vu all over again from that 95, 96 Panther team with a lot of grinders, nobody that really stands out in particular, but good team chemistry and, just failing to wilt. I mean, you would have to even give them a shot. As heavy as they are underdogs tonight, the Seattle Kraken, would that be something if they pull that off?
Oh, no, that'd be amazing, and I'm sort of leaning that way.
I'm hoping it happens. I really am. I'm rooting for him. I don't have that much of a rooting interest, overall in that series, but I'm going to pull for them tonight because that would be something. How many years did we ever figure that out? Have the Las Vegas Golden Knights been in existence? I want to say, is this their 5th season? Has it been that many?
I think it's like 5 years.
Okay. So you would have a 5th-year expansion team and a 2nd-year expansion team contesting the West, and that would make it even more likely, you would think, Lubie, for the Eastern Conference team to have a very formidable shot in there against whoever emerges from the West, which could well be. I mean, this would be the wildest of trips, wouldn't it? If the Florida Panthers somehow carved out what could be their only Stanley Cup.
This is their 6th season.
Sixth season, okay.
17-18, and they went to they got the conference championship that first year.
First year, yeah. I mean, they were awesome. Gerard Gallant, who somehow must rub people the wrong way. All right. The PGA tournament gets underway this week. We will have a pool working on that. I don't know. I mean, the usual suspects. What do you think, Lubie? John Rahm? Yeah, you got to play him. Would you play him over Scheffler? Rahm, Scheffler. Where do you go with that matchup? That's going to be one you have to choose. Scheffler?
Yeah.
Over John Rahm, who's just been masterful so far.
I know, but at some point, they always hit a curveball.
Yeah.
We Kepka, and since they're merging the world.
Horses for courses. I mean, we have to check out what is this? Oak Hill? What do we know about that course? Nothing?
No clue.
Where is that? Chicago? I don't know. Where the hell is this course? Oak Hill Country Club. Anybody know? All right. Well, we'll see. Because I'm going to have to take a look at the list there. What about nondescript European schminks? How many of those do you include in your thinking? They seem to have fallen off the map, no? And this Byron Nelson, was there an overwhelming number of Asian golfers in this tournament they just contested this week?
Oak Hill Country Club's in Rochester, New York.
Oh, Rochester, New York. Okay.
There you go.
Wow. The fabled, well-lined hills of Rochester, New York.
I've never known that.
No great advantage there in terms of, carry. It's not like they're playing in Colorado or something. Okay, we'll have to see who plays this course well. I would imagine it's been in play before in either majors or it seems like, one of those courses you've heard of that maybe Jim Nantz has drooled over, the coverage map of in the past. But we'll see. Who carries the PGA, by the way? Is that an ABC event? Who carries the PGA tournament? ABC does some golf too, don't they?
Oh, really? I have no idea. That's a Sarny thing. Leave that as Sarny.
Dig up Chris Schenkel and get him to go Tiger for par. Ian Eagle's going to be great at that, isn't he? Tiger for par. You could just record. I mean, it'll only be a matter before they have, artificial intelligence doing the calls on golf. It would be perfect. All right, we're coming back with more in a moment. Grant Long going to join us. We'll talk some buckets with Grant Long. He's always great, and that should be fun. We'll also give you some losers for the Preakness, some losing ideas when we get a chance. The Lakers and the Denver Nuggets, which we now, Lubie and I have both become Mr. Chalk on the program and are both very much in favor of the Denver Nuggets winning it all. So you can go ahead and send it in on any of the other teams that remain, including... See, now that would be something if I had told you not to sleep on the Lakers all year and then picked against them against the Nuggets and they won.
Yeah, I mean, you can write them out. I think it's impressive they got here. I don't know. The Nuggets, to me, their whole issue was injuries, and they're not injured. They're the best team in basketball if they're not injured.
Yeah, we have to see one in this matchup, do we not? Between the Lakers and the Nuggets?
I mean, yeah.
Nuggets, naturally, big home court edge there in the Mile High City as people are wheezing as they get off the bus. You see, like LeBron on a respirator. LeBron James, by the way, still, all of his... Skip Bayless should be ashamed to even go outside, right? He should have to check outside, his door, much like Ray Liotta did in Goodfellas, right? When he finally got to witness protection, you got to look around. How could you possibly maintain or contend that this guy is not been the most influential and maybe best player in basketball history across time?
It's just special. You can root for him however you want, do whatever you want with LeBron. The fact, what I'm trying to do is...
it's no great deduction on my part to say this guy is like the greatest player, right?
I just, whatever it is, I think what happens with those discussions, we end up missing the point. Like the dude's 38, he's played 20 straight years.
Yes.
He's never missed a year. All the greats have missed Like even when he missed time, it was like a month. He never missed. Jordan missed a year. This guy misses a year. Kobe missed lots of time.
Jordan was out for like 2 years, remember?
LeBron's never missed time. 20 straight years, and he still looks like that.
Yeah.
I think that's what people need to do. I like, you're going to miss it. Like I'm trying to stay up as late as I can, watch as many of the Laker games as I can, because what the fuck the guy's doing is utterly stupid. Like,
well, and he looks sick doing it also. That's the thing. I mean, never mind body by Jake. How about body by LeBron? Whatever this guy is doing, are we going to find out, years from now that he was on like Sublimaze or something, or some substance that was, was so egregious, so outrageous that not even the most crooked of horse trainers would even think about injecting their animals with this stuff?
The problem with LeBron is he's been so transparent with this stuff. That stuff always gets you in the end. Like if you actually give a shit about your body, you don't want to use that stuff because there's always side effects to it. And as you saw with a Griffey, even these guys that we swear didn't use it, they used it, and they eventually get hurt a lot. Like steroids. Look at Tiger. All these guys, Ortiz, all these guys that had steroid, A-Rod, ended badly with injuries. Like if you're a LeBron, you don't want that. Like just work out really well. Be surrounded.
What is he doing? How come he doesn't have like a fitness, thing out there somewhere?
He's not.
Never mind Billy Blanks, imagine people were like schwitzing to the oldies with Richard Simmons, for God's sake, and thinking that represented some level of athleticism.
I think what he does is pure work. It's not a magical plan. I think he literally fucking.
And he's ready to go every night. No, that's the thing. I mean, this is not a guy that comes out there and just kind of jogs around the court. Ready to go every night. So we'll see. I don't know. It seems like it's a little bit of a daunting task, is it not? The way Denver has played. I mean, they handled the Phoenix Suns, who were on fire in the previous series, and had both of their guys, loaded, and ready to, go out and win. And they eventually just shut them down, to the point where that last game was a total embarrassment, and ended up getting Monty Williams fired in the process. A lot of firepower there with the Denver Nuggets. Jamal Murray is playing great also. So it's not just Jokic. And then you mentioned Porter, Michael Porter Jr. That guy's excellent. And who's the other guy? Aaron Gordon.
It's Aaron Gordon, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., and they have a nice bench. They have a really deep bench, and they have the best player in basketball. Like
they have deep depth, is what you're saying.
They have deep depth, and Jokic is the best player in basketball, and it's might be by a wide margin at this point. That's the thing that people don't want to give him credit because, like Andy say, he doesn't look like what we think a great basketball player is supposed to look like. Who gives a shit?
He looks like a slug out there. He really does. But like you would think, he is to basketball what Butterbean Ash was to boxing physiques. You would think it would be very unlikely that he would be, a Larry Bird-like player. It really is. Yeah. All right, we're coming back with Grant Long. Grant Long's going to join us in just a few minutes here on the show. We'll get into what's happening with the remaining 4 teams in the NBA, one of which is your Miami Heat, which Lubie now again trembles in fear that they're going down in 7 games to the Boston.
I think they'll lose. I don't tremble in fear. I love Brian. I hope people have that exact. They've literally done it to the Heat. Everyone picked. Everyone picked against them versus the Bucks, including us, because you'd be an idiot not to. The Knicks series, I think it was like 80% of people beat against the Heat, and I was like, "What did?" Okay,
I gave them a good shot against the Knicks.
I thought they beat the Knicks.
Yeah,
I didn't pick because the Knicks were tough enough that I thought it'd be an interesting series, but in my heart of hearts, thought they'd win that series, and they won in 6 without a healthy Jimmy Butler. Look, the Celtics are the better team. I would pick this, and I already did pick the Celtics to win. But the idea that this Heat team's just going to go out, okay. I mean, then like, how do people watch stuff and not learn? Like this Heat team,
and the Celtics, have been somewhat Jekyll and Hyde-esque. As great as they were in this third quarter of Game 7, I mean, they were in a dogfight up until that point. You had Jason Tatum have the game of a lifetime. Unlikely he could duplicate that. And, you had him just the previous ball game, he had vanished from sight until he hit 3 threes in the fourth quarter, which kind of came out of nowhere. Maybe that was a springboard for things to come in Game 7. But you also had the typical vanishing act of one James Harden in Game 7. And Harden had a couple of big games in the series, but other than that, he was really, a negative factor. And, seemed to slow their offense down to a crawl also. Joel Embiid had a lousy ball game. And the Celtics look good. I think the Celtics have a little bit more overall than the Miami Heat do. Yeah.
I'm not casting aspersions against the Celtics. I said it. If you come late, I said it early in the show. Celtics are deeper. They're more talented. They shoot way better than the Heat. On paper, go for it. Say whatever you want. If you watch the Heat, they're not just going to go away. And the Heat not only have a coaching advantage, they have a massive coaching advantage. Missoula's in his first year coaching. Spoelstra's in his second.
He looks a little stunned, Missoula. Does he not?
And the Celtics play that way even before Missoula. Like, no matter how good the Celtics are, you said it. The Celtics give away games. They just do. I don't know why. I'm not saying they should. They just do. So
they have some really lame spells.
They do. So to say Celtics in 4 or 5, look, maybe it happens because the Heat are shooting so badly.
Anything can happen. Well, obviously, yeah.
I just think the pick that's sort of naive. I think
pivotal game 1 though coming up on Wednesday.
Big.
Couple of days away. Very pivotal. Yeah.
The Heat,
whoever wins that game is going to have a big edge. There's no doubt about it. Then it would be a pivotal game too, obviously, to follow that. All right, we're coming back. We're going to pivot into the mindset of one Grant Long, who's always great, always a brilliant analyst here on the program. We love having him on. I think you guys will really enjoy him. He's coming up, and we'll get into both the Lakers in Denver and the Miami Heat, of course, where he was an original cast member of the Miami Heat and distinguished himself very well during his Heat tenure in 15 years in the NBA, and we'll see what he thinks about the Boston Celtics. He was picking Boston all year, wasn't he? Every time we've had him on, we ask him about the NBA championship. Did he not say he liked the Celtics? So, we'll see if he continues to enhance his belief in that position as he's going to join us in just a few minutes here on a Defo show. Peel yourself off to Matt Monday. Having a good time with you. Jeff DeForest, Mike Lubie Lubitz, and we will be back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
What did Mayo eat yesterday, by the way? With the lunchbox, be another Runway 84
like, what the hell?
festival. Weren't there only like 3 people and one was his daughter? I don't imagine his daughter.
That's what I don't understand.
Eats like he does. Wow.
No one eats like he does. What are you talking about?
The pictures, I mean, we're going to have to get in there, man. Didn't the guy want us to come out there for one of those business lunches?
We're going to do a show there. We're going to in June, but I don't know how long I can wait. The way he's going out there every week. He's treating it like
he really is treating it like it was Taco Bell, man. I mean, it's amazing. Runway 84. This guy travels in high circles. Anyway, coming your way at 12 o'clock today, South Florida Live, Mike Mayo and the Mike Mayo Lunchbox. Mother's Day, a fiasco for a lot of restaurants, even though they make a lot of money. But rough. Did you go out, Louie? Did you try and do something? Yeah. I did nothing yesterday.
Okay. Well, happy Mother's Day to those in your life and my life.
Yeah.
We went for brunch to a place called Cuba Libre, a Cuban restaurant on Las Olas, and they
nice
brunch. And it was fine. We got in there early enough. By the time we left, it was packed. When we got in there, it was slow, and the service was great, and the food was really good, and we enjoyed it.
Cuban sandwich? Did you throw it in?
Oh no, they actually had like brunch items. It was interesting. They combined like ropa vieja with a Benedict, and they did some other stuff that were pretty interesting. And then we went to my sister's house for my side of the family for brunch as well that night. She got it catered by somewhere, so it was good.
Right. We had a good time. Very nice. We do want to congratulate our house musician here, Albert Castillo, 2 Blues Music Awards.
Nice.
I mean, that's like the Emmys, or the Oscars for blues players, or the Grammys. I mean, absolutely fantastic. So that came out of Memphis. Albert wasn't there. His wife did the acceptance. He won Album of the Year. And it wasn't Performer of the Year, but something along those lines.
Nice.
Yeah, might have been Guitar Player of the Year. I mean, he won 2 of them, though. Took down 2 big awards, so congratulations. Albert, working real hard with the Blood Brothers Band. Definitely worth seeing if you can catch them anywhere. They're busy touring. They're all over the freaking world, Lubie. Very nice. I mean, I know Albert was a little down after the COVID thing. I think he got hit with the COVID stick and really put him in a bad way. And came back and just tremendous. So congratulations to our good friend, local musician, Albert Castillo. All right, we're coming back with more. Grant Long going to join us in just a couple of minutes here on the program. Back in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 8:21. Ponies in Style at Champions, the outstanding simulcasting room at beautiful Hialeah Park. Yes, the grand old lady of thoroughbred racing has never been more vibrant, and you can wager on the races from the top tracks around the country while enjoying a cocktail at the Brass Rail Bar or any of the fine food served throughout the facility. If poker is your game, you're covered in Style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar, and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Are you looking to buy your first home? Have you been turned down for a loan? Do you need to refinance or get money out of your home? Call Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. He's been helping the South Florida community get mortgages for 30 years.
Hi, this is Michael Kodsey, CEO of Choice Mortgage. We have the most competitive fixed rates in the market. Call me 24/7, 561-441-2730. And remember, I don't just work banking hours. Make the right choice for your home. Call Choice Mortgage today.
Grant Long joins us here on the show. All right, in your days at Romulus, if a guy was chucking him from 40, would he get beat up after school? I mean, this is Michigan basketball now, Detroit basketball.
Yeah, I don't think you'd have to wait to after school.
Start your day with a cup of Defo. It's now time for the Defo Show.
All right, welcome back to the show, Peel yourself off to Mount Monday here on the Defo Show. Jeff DeForest and one Mike Lubitz, and it's always a pleasure. I don't know that it would have been easy to envision. I believe this is 3 out of the last 4 years. Is that possible, Lubie? That the Miami Heat have been in the conference finals? Is it 3 out of 4 years?
I want to Celtics all 3 times.
I want to say yes to that. And yet, you know, when we were watching those opening 17 games of the original 88-89 season, you know, you wouldn't have necessarily foreseen this. A big part, though, of any success that team had, and this gentleman is always a pleasure to have on the program, joins us right now. The great Grant Long with us here on the program, one of the original Heat members. Grant, how are you, my friend?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful this morning, guys. How are you?
Doing well, sir.
Well, we're doing okay. I mean, we're kind of stunned here in South Florida. Not only do we have the Heat making this run now to the Eastern Conference Finals when they were like 6 minutes away from elimination in the lottery against the Chicago Bulls in one of the play-in games, and a spot of just pure infamy, being the first team to be eliminated. That was either in the 7th or 8th spot. And now here they are. I mean, they knock off the Knicks impressive fashion, beat the Milwaukee Bucks, even with Adebayo. I mean, with Antetokounmpo coming back. What do you make of this, Grant Long? I mean, you know, I mean, they were this close. The fans were already screaming maybe they'd be better off not making the playoffs and taking a shot in the Wemby sweepstakes.
That was an interesting stat that you brought up, Defo. 3 out of the last 4 years in the finals. Or
I believe that's it. Yeah.
And you consider the talent that over the years that's been on that team. I mean, Shaquille O'Neal, Dwayne Wade, and LeBron James. That's an outstanding stat.
Yeah.
I think it just holds true that Eric Spoelstra, probably besides Pop, the longest tenured coach in the NBA. I think that continuity and having Pat Riley, that whole system in place, really supports that statistic. This is what you're supposed to do when you have that kind of continuity and those kind of people in place, that personnel as far as front office and the guys that you are selecting to play on your team. This is what's supposed to happen. And it's great to see that it's happening. Like you said, though, who knew about it in the beginning of the season? There was so many things that seemed to go wrong, but they righted the ship, and now they're headed in the right direction.
All right. A sensational game yesterday. I would imagine that you had at least a casual interest in what was going on between the Boston Celtics and the Philadelphia 76ers. There was just a news bulletin Lubie was going to jump in with where there's an all points bulletin out for people searching for James Harden and Joel Embiid. With Embiid, I don't know that we expected this, but with James Harden, that's amazing. The pattern of Game 7 failures that this man has had in big spots. If anything, you talk about, it's one thing to be Dan Marino, never win a ring, but you were always great. It wasn't your fault. But I mean, this guy has collapsed any number of times, and he was awful in this game yesterday.
Every time.
Yeah, I think he had 9 points in a close game, and that's for an MVP, that's unacceptable. I would say. You even look at that team; they had 4 guys, I think 3 or 4 guys in double figures. That just wasn't enough, and you didn't have enough from Harden. When you have Harden in his 25, 30 points, that means he's impacting the game. He's making some things happen, but he had 9 points, so he was nowhere to be found to impact this basketball game. Embiid is one of those guys. I know he's the MVP, but he's a guy that can't do it by himself. He needs help. He's got to get somebody to get him the basketball in order for him to impact the game. He had his double-figure points, but it wasn't enough. They needed that 1-2 combination from Harden and Embiid, and like you said, it one of those disappearing acts in a closed-out game, because he has had some terrific games during this series. He actually won a couple of games with those in Boston on some last-second shots. So he did show up throughout the series, but when you needed him most in a closeout game, it's difficult to explain that one.
No, that belongs on an episode of Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack leading him out of the tunnel there, and you're trying to figure out how is it that this guy, morphed into Matthew Dellavedova all of a sudden. You're thinking, wow, 9 points. That's a pretty important contribution. All right, Jason Tatum, one of the games for the ages. And we always mention the shots from the Coke machine. He was making those. I think they even got the Coke machine.
Honestly, it was great.
But a key. That was a great performance, and that was going to be difficult for any team to overcome, including one that now, is receiving so much criticism for, doing that vanishing act in the second half.
Yeah, listen, I had Jason Tatum as my league MVP, and I said that long before the All-Star break. And I thought he was on his way to doing that when he received the All-Star MVP. I thought, wow, this is going to be great. He's going to finish it off with the 3 trophies. He's going to get the All-Star MVP. He'll get the league MVP and the finals MVP. Well,
wow.
He didn't get the league MVP, but he is certainly playing like an MVP candidate. To have the closeout game that he had, that's what you're supposed to do. When Philadelphia lost in Philadelphia, I said it's going to be very difficult for them to go to Boston and win a game, especially because Tatum had an outstanding game in Philadelphia to keep the game or move the game back to Boston. So he was going to be very tough to contain, and he proved that to be true, having 51 points. And, they had no answer for him. He's an MVP, and next year, if he continues on this path, I'm giving it to him. I'm giving it to him right now. You heard it here first.
Who's older, you or Al Horford? Grant Long. This fucking guy's been in the league forever. I mean, his dad looks younger than he does at this point.
Tito.
Yeah, Tito Horford, former UM star.
Yeah, that's right. He just seems to sort of like Udonis Haslem. He's one of those guys that understands his role, understands how to play, and at the end of the night, he's impacted the game. For whatever reason, maybe 6 points, 9 points, 4, whatever the case may be, somehow he has impacted the game. And that's why he continues to be on somebody's roster, and not only just on somebody's roster, a playoff contending roster. You notice that's where he's always ended up, on a playoff contending team.
Grant Long, guesting with us here on the show. And I know Lubie wants to fire one at you. I'm surprised because he's been hard-pressed to contain himself. He goes on these Joe Pesci tirades when he starts talking about the Miami Heat. Even though, everybody's saying they're playing with house money. But Lubie, go ahead and fire away with Grant Long.
I don't think I've cursed too much today. I mean, I accept where the Heat are in this series. The Celtics should be the overwhelming favorite. I just think it's funny that they are still totally discounted. Like, I get that the Celtics should win, and the Celtics also throw away games. We've seen that now for 4 years straight, where the Celtics literally will have 2 game stretches where you don't know what the hell happened. And Mazzulla's not been any better as a coach to bring him back. But Look, what's interesting, Grant, is you've been around teams that, with expansion teams, but also teams that have contended. To see a team be so back against the wall that the Heat were at the end of the season, throughout the entire playoffs, where they've been discounted time and time again. What does that do for a team? Because we see the Heat seem to thrive there, which is so weird to me. Like they've now gone to 3 straight Eastern Conference Finals, and every single year, whenever they've been up and in a great position, they always seem to sort of flounder. And it's when the world's going against them that they rise up. Why so often do we see professional athletes who we think should be self-motivated need that extrinsic motivation?
Well, I mean, listen, you're getting into the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't think you need any extra motivation if you're in there and you're on your way there. But I'll say this about the Miami Heat: it's going to take. Everybody's sold on defense wins championships. I think that was true years ago. Defense doesn't win championships in this era of basketball. You better score the basketball, and I think that's where Miami has an advantage because. Well, they will have an advantage if they can get guys like Duncan Robinson to find their shot and get more baskets because they're going to need all the offensive power that they can, and that's how you're going to win. That's how Miami's going to win this series. They've got to score. You can't expect to stop a Boston Celtics team with such great scores like Tatum and Jaylen Brown. These guys put the ball in the basket with regularity and at a high clip. You better be able to put points on the board because, like I said, if you're relying on defense to slow down this type of offense, you're sadly mistaken. So hopefully the Miami Heat can put their offense together. And it can't be one of those games, guys. Listen to me. It can't be one of those games where Jimmy Butler has 49 points and the next guy has 10. That's not going to win in this series. You've got to have equal balance scoring. Now, Jimmy can be a hero in the fourth quarter, but he can't have one of those blowout games where he's got 47, 48 points and nobody else has 10. That's not going to win in this series.
In the anatomy of a lost series, you can often see the writing on an obituary column for the coach. In terms of his tenure, Monty Williams gets fired after, getting beaten by Denver, which I don't know that that's any great embarrassment, but nonetheless, and had great success over the last 4 years by any statistical standard, still loses his job. But you can't help but think that Doc Rivers. I mean, there are some people, Grant Long, that believe Joan Rivers or Mickey Rivers, Johnny Rivers. Any Rivers would be better than Doc Rivers as a head coach there, right? I mean, he's such a likable, affable guy. It's hard to put the knock on him. He seems like a really decent human being. But what do you hear about? I mean, like Doc Rivers as a coach, and will he be there in Philadelphia next year, in your opinion?
Well, here's the question that has to be answered. Is it Doc Rivers or is the process run its course already?
Yeah.
And that's what we've been waiting on. Everybody's talked about this process. Well, the process yielded an MVP and Embiid. The Philadelphia 76ers have yet to even get there to say, was it worth it? And that's what you have to ask yourself. Doc Rivers the problem, or is the process just run its course and it's over and maybe they have to retool and go through the process again? If you think these guys are good enough, then Doc Rivers is probably going to go.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much criticism of Doc Rivers. I mean, there were times I looked at stuff. I mean, like the deal last year with them beating the playoffs where we had him in the ball game in a 30-point blowout with like 8 seconds to go and he gets injured. And you're thinking that is a bozoic coaching move. But I don't know that he really could have done much to stop Tatum in the game yesterday. It seemed like, they had him pretty well covered at times, and he was just going to go off. All right, let's look to the West real quick here, Grant Long. We appreciate your time as always on the program, but I've been telling Lubie all year not to sleep on the Lakers, and then we just in typical fashion, sports talk hosts, trying to make predictions and give you who they think is going to come out on top. Well, we both jumped on the chalk here and now think Denver's going to win the championship. Can the Lakers get by Denver, and how do you see that matchup sizing up?
It's L.A. and Boston in the finals.
Oh wow!
Oh wow! Okay, wow.
It's the old L.A. Boston rivalry rekindled.
Wow! Holy Magic Johnson.
20th season. I'm just recreating the narrative here, but listen, it's going to be an uphill battle for the Lakers to beat Denver. But I just think the way that they're playing. Come on, man! Nobody expected the Lakers to be here. Now, what is it? 2-10 they started.
Yes.
Remember, they won the championship in the bubble, and then they didn't even make the playoffs.
Yep.
LeBron sitting at the end of the bench,
Yep.
not playing, disgruntled. Coaches get fired. Nobody thought the Lakers would be in this position that they're in, and especially in year 20 for LeBron, he's playing at a high level. Nobody thought that would happen, but it's happening. So you might as well finish the story, and the guy rides off into the championship game. So that's just the way that I see that it's going to play out. He'll ride off into the championship game. It's going to be difficult to beat Denver, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Lakers they do it.
Wow, that's strong, Grant Long. I'm glad that you're of that frame of mind. Austin Reeves, he's kind of like Rudy out there, isn't he? Where you're wondering, I mean, will LeBron James or Anthony Davis or D'Angelo Russell drop the ball off to this kind of goofy looking white guy, and he's turned out to be almost a go-to catalyst for them in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, you're right. It's been the other guys. It hasn't been Anthony Davis or LeBron James or a big name guy. It's been Lonnie Walker the fourth. This guy is out of his mind in a couple of those games. So it's been the other guys that have really accepted their role and seize the moment, if you will, to be great in those moments in the fourth quarter. And hats off to the veterans of the Lakers. They've allowed those guys to flourish and play at a high level, put them in positions to be successful, and they've come through. So this is the proving ground, if you will, for NBA players in the playoffs. This is where you cut your teeth at. This is where you earn your medal, so to speak. So they're doing it, and hopefully they continue. If you're the Lakers, you hope that these young guys, inexperienced guys, continue to play at this level.
Do we know if any of the previous Lonnie Walkers, the first, the second, or the third, had any basketball distinction? They're already on number 4 with this guy. Unbelievable. He played at the University of Miami. I don't think he got to see too much action there. I think he had injury issues, Lonnie Walker the fourth. But he was buried. I mean, the guy, I don't even think he had played in the previous games. And they wheel him out there in the fourth quarter of a crucial ball game against Golden State, and he goes for 15 just in the quarter. I mean, that was unbelievable. Well, Lubie is now of the theory that Nikola Jokic is the best player in basketball. Is that a fair statement for somebody that obviously has a lot more experience with judging these things than we do? What do you think? I mean, he just doesn't look like he's doing anything special out there, but he is.
I think Lubie would have a whole lot of people that would agree with him, and I'm on that board. I'm on that bus as well. Lubie is
all right,
standing, and he does it all. And he's one of those guys. When you talk about players or teams that play through, he touches the ball just about every single possession. So he's going to dictate what happens almost every possession that the Denver Nuggets have. Not many players are in that realm. LeBron James, who else? Maybe Giannis. But Jokic is a guy that has the ball in his hands. He's a center. How many guys do you know have the ball in their hands for every possession playing the center position in today's NBA? He's that good.
Yeah, and a great passer. I mean, almost Walton-esque when it comes to passing either out of a high or a low post. And then, comes through in the clutch, gets to the line, shoots free throws well. I mean, does a little bit of everything. And surprisingly, a presence even at the defensive
Very
end.
Clever.
Very
clever with the ball. Like a Vlade Divac, like to the third power.
Yeah, well, with a little more firepower offensively than Vlade had. All right, and certainly if he ever becomes a GM, let's hope he does a better job than Vlade did in
Right.
30 years in Sacramento that they were involved in the process. They should have had a process server come and throw him out of the office there, Vlade Divac. Seemed like a pretty good guy. What was that trade? He made some hideous trade. We used to play a clip from Vlade.
The DeMarcus Cousins trade. It was a freaking.
Oh, yeah.
He had a chance to get Luka Doncic. Said he didn't want to get him because he had some beef with his dad years ago.
Yeah, so I mean, it was a pretty ineffective run there in Sacramento. Ran right into the ground. Grant, always a pleasure, my friend. We thank you so much for joining us. How nervous are they in Detroit? A 14% chance in the Wemby sweepstakes. What's the story there? I mean, is this going to be like a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Neil Walk kind of draft where somebody gets Wemby and you're hoping it's not San Antonio or Houston? What's the feeling in Detroit?
Well, remember I said it first. I think he's going to San Antonio. Greg Popovich rises from the ashes once again.
Wow.
We're hoping in Detroit that we can get him, but I think he's going to San Antonio.
That'd be quite the thing. I mean, you would have enough young stars there on the Pistons roster to make you think even Dan Campbell could coach them into a playoff spot. It'd be good on those motivational talks during the timeouts. It'd be great to have them mic'd up. All right, Grant, always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks so much. It's always a gas talking to you, and appreciate your opinion. Lakers Celtics in the finals for the NBA. Grant Long, ladies and gentlemen. Always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks for joining us on the show.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thanks a lot, Grant Long.
Be the freaking NBA's wet dream. Maybe they could pull that.
Oh, can you imagine? Wow. So now we have to root for Denver Heat.
Oh yeah,
just to see. I don't know why do we always want the networks to have to be going Ralph Cramden and explaining why they put the game on tape delay at 2 a.m. What was up with that hockey game starting at 10 o'clock last night too? I mean, the one hockey game that was being played, Las Vegas Golden Knights and Edmonton. I guess not exactly a big East Coast draw. So, did they care about shutting out the East Coast market?
I guess
10 o'clock on a Sunday night. I mean, no, what is a Sunday night now? For me, it's right back to, you always go back to your roots, right? Used to be come home from Shea from working a football game, jump in, the bathtub for like an hour, hot as I could stand it, and watch 60 Minutes and crash. That was
I was in bed by 10 something last night. Yeah, that's a weird, you had all day. Like, why wouldn't you make it like
an afternoon game? Yeah, in Edmonton.
There's nothing out west. Like, why would you not have made it like 7 o'clock here, 4 o'clock there? I don't get that.
Would have made sense. I don't know. I mean, whoever is regulating this stuff. So we don't know. We're thinking Thursday for the Panthers, getting it underway with the Carolina Hurricanes, who will be another tough out for them. But no reason to believe that they can't somehow muster up a way to be in this series or take it the distance, which would be great, wouldn't it?
Entire look, they're getting good net mining, which has been their issue in the past.
Yeah,
and they're tough now, which has been their other issue.
And they're 8-4 in the last 12 against good teams.
They're playing out of their mind. I mean, they're playing really well. What do you mean? They've won 7 of 8. Have they won 7 of 8?
7 of 8. Yes,
exactly. They lost and then won. They won 7 of 8. Like, they're playing as well as anyone in hockey. I mean, they are. Now, the Carolina Hurricanes are scary. So, again, I would give the Hurricanes the nod in picking, but I would not.
Cats are right there in every game. I mean, every game they're right there, and they found ways to finish games in their favor, which is, that Reinhardt goal was just sensational. When he put it between the guy's legs on a wraparound, that was awesome, man. And then Verhaeghe, man, just fires from just off the left side there, and in overtime again. That series easily could have gone the other way, but I do believe that the Panthers play with more chutzpah.
Yes,
I got stuck on it. Chutzpah than either of the two teams that they were going against. The Bruins, I don't know if they became timid, but it wasn't like they seemed convinced. Their body language was negative, wasn't it? I mean, if you wanted to go by that, matters of the occult, Lubie. Body language was not convincing. Well, once especially when that series got to be 3-2, it was like, this thing is going to be, real rough for Boston to get their way out of. And then just tremendous. A Game 7 win on the road by the Cats. Thank you. All right. A lot of exciting stuff. No question about it. And interesting. I don't know that I see the Lakers, as much as I've been a Laker backer all year long. I don't know that I see them beating Denver. I think Denver is going to be very, very tough. I meant to ask Grant what it was like to play in Denver, if there was that much of a differential,
That would have been a good question, actually. Because that's the one thing that people aren't talking about at all that should actually matter.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing really like it. Like it's
well, I mean, I've been there. I mean, have you been skiing in Colorado ever? I mean, I remember taking a trip to Aspen and attempting to ski very briefly, and then spent most of the time in the clubhouse there getting drunk or whatever they call that. What do they call the thing? It's not like in golf. It's the 19th hole.
The ski lodge. I don't know.
The lodge. Yeah. That's where I'd be spending my time with a pair of fur shoes on, drinking a hot toddy or whatever. But but the rarefied air definitely had some impact. Tahoe, that's at an altitude, Lake Tahoe. So, you feel it a little bit there.
They're called the Mile High City for a reason. Like, it's got to be fucking different than other places. And you don't ever hear really reference. I mean, maybe these guys get used to it. I don't know. But it would be. I'm curious what it is to play in it. Like how much? Does it?
I did play some basketball in Colorado when my buddy and I were on our way out to California when we had left the Q's there and decided to relocate to the West Coast. And we were stopping at different people's places, and we played basketball wherever we could get into a game. I don't remember it having any particular impact. All I remember is I couldn't wait to drink a Coors beer after the ball game because we had never had one. We'd heard all kinds of things about it. We didn't realize it was really literally like drinking water.
Yeah, shit beer.
You don't like it, Coors beer?
I don't mind Coors, but I'm not.
After a game or something, it's not bad.
I'm not a beer aficionado. I'm not like an IPA guy, so I'm not the person.
Oh no, that's a whole different world. This is very pedestrian by comparison.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'll own that it's shit beer. I actually like Coors, but I'll own that it's shitty.
This is like a Coors Light is like any generic brand that you would get of something that the regular brands are far superior, if you know what I mean. Like street drugs. This is my new passion, though. There is the Coors Light after the walk of life. It literally is like drinking a water, Louis. It's amazing. It is. But we couldn't wait to try our first Coors. My buddy and I. I'm not sure if we had one before we played in this basketball game, but we're playing half-court ball there. I don't remember being particularly exhausted or anything.
Okay.
This was when I was like 22 years old. So what is that, 50 years ago? But I can still picture being in these games and waiting with a cooler full of Coors beer to drink afterwards, which was going to be our first taste of this stuff. And we thought, pretty good. Then we realized it really was shit. But you couldn't get it east of anywhere on the East Coast. It was just unavailable, and now, of course, it's infiltrated virtually everywhere. But you can't compare it to any kind of craft beer, Louis.
No.
I mean, it's
it's what it is.
It's dishwater. Yeah. All right, we're coming back with more in a moment. Now that it's 8:48.
Folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched. Steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
The world, if my point was ever going to be embellished and going to be proven true, the world has gotten me sugar.
Grab a bagel and a schmear, plus some Defo and Lubie. Welcome back to the Defo Show.
All right, welcome back to the show. A spectacular weekend of South Florida sports, and more to come as our 2 8th seeds, both riding Cinderella stories in both the NBA and the NHL. And here's a good one for you, Libby. Does either one of the two continue, and who is more likely to make it into the championship round? Your opinion?
I don't know. It's very much like the first round to me in the sense that I think both teams are the clear underdog.
Yeah.
The difference is I'm flip-flop in this regard because as good as the Celtics are, they have shown some weakness. So maybe the Heat can take advantage.
Vulnerable, my friend. Vulnerable.
Hurricanes have not done that. Hurricanes have been freaking scary.
They've been pretty good. Yeah, they've been dynamite.
So, whereas the Panthers have actually been very consistent and played very strong. They have gotten down in games. They have had their issues. The Hurricanes, outside of that one loss, has been real scary. So I would say I think both probably lose. But if one was to pull the upset, I would lean more Heat just because of the Jimmy Butler factor. Maybe their role players finally wake up and play like they did against the Bucks after having a horrendous series versus the Knicks. Whereas with the Panthers, they play pretty consistent, and the Hurricanes just seem like they're on a warpath at this point.
Yeah, I'm thinking without Tyler Hero, and we keep getting back to that, although it didn't seem to be that much of a detriment to the Miami Heat. They didn't shoot the ball well, and probably could have used a little more spark on the scoring. They did well defensively against the Knicks. I mean, those games were the old ground and pound that you used to see by comparison today's to today's standards. It was very much ground and pound, was it not? I mean, the under players were dancing in the streets there, and the people that took the points with the Knicks also feeling pretty good about themselves, especially after that late call. What did you make of that? I don't know that they could have done anything differently.
I didn't like it, but it wasn't egregious. I was mad at the Heat for rushing. I didn't know what Lowry was doing there. Like, there was no reason to do whatever I wanted the ball in Jimmy Butler's hands. I didn't want it in. I didn't trust Vincent at all by that point of the game.
Yeah,
I didn't want Vincent with that ball. Knowing him, he would have bricked the goddamn free throws. So I didn't like that because it wasn't on purpose. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care.
No, that was far from deliberate. Yeah, it was
incidental, and that to me means a foul. And the next ball, I don't know about going as far as a flagrant one, but again, in this day and age, any contact above the shoulders,
you hit a guy in the face, pretty squarely with an elbow.
So I couldn't fight it. It was annoying when it happened. And that it was, to me, purely, it was unlike some of the plays, it was a basketball move. Like, they literally guys do that all the time. So it wasn't like he was doing some extra, that's a load of garbage. It wasn't unnecessary. It was literally a move to get away from a guy that was in his face. Brunson was playing very physical. You're allowed to be physical back. But he did get him in the face. It was square. So I was frustrated.
When you hit the guy like that, I mean, you pretty much have to call it.
Yeah, I didn't lose it. It won this thing.
The flopping in the NBA, though, has become worse almost in soccer. I mean, and the selling of these fouls. You really are looking at just a bizarre, arbitrary. I know it's subjective, but you would hope to see some consistency with it. But what's being called and the way it's being called, not to blame. I mean, look, it's going outrageously bad for both teams in most of these situations, but the refereeing has been atrocious
across the board. I'd like them to pull back, and hockey's done this.
Yes,
for them.
Don't be so intrusive. I think the Panthers had one penalty.
Yeah,
in that game against the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Like the second to last game, they didn't have any.
Yeah,
and I think good. Like basketball, I understand we want more scoring. And I'm not saying don't blow the whistle if you want to try and keep the flow going. But this stuff, literally, the Knicks literally had 2 made field goals for 11 minutes and had 16 points. How the fuck do you have 2 made field goals on the road over 11 minutes and you have 16 points? I'm sorry.
Yeah, definitely very frustrating.
Like, it's just weird. It's look, and the refs don't give or take games away fine. It's boring.
They're very inconsistent. And a lot of the calls are just absolute garbage. The best was that 5 seconds call on LeBron, where they haven't called a 5 seconds violation in like 12 years in the
NBA. But they did on the Knicks too. The Knicks in that game, in the game 5, they did it. RJ Barrett, goddamn 5 second, and I was like, okay,
5 seconds. Like, all of a sudden, they got a memo that says, "Hey, listen, by the way, take a look at these 5 seconds, violations. They're really, slowing the game down to a crawl." And some of the stuff that you see, in the liberal interpretation of the traveling rules and the amount of times that you can switch pivot feet before you make a move. I mean, you're watching a guy, he's in the middle of the paint. They're not counting the 3 seconds there. He takes a step out. All of a sudden, he's at the foul line. Then he ducks under the guy and ends up getting a layup. And you're thinking, okay, without a single dribble, they're watching this transpire and, nothing. Whistles are frozen. That's it. So it'd be a lot of fun, though. And nice to see these two teams alive. It really is. I mean, we often thrive on and have believed for years that negativity sells. I don't think that's the case. I was thinking, good. There's another 2 weeks of relevant stuff. We didn't mention the Marlins. Jim Sarney very upset with us and their big 3-1 victory yesterday over the lowly Cincinnati Reds.
Weren't they playing like shit? I thought they were playing horrendous until the last 2 games.
Yes, exactly. And that's why, they haven't exactly been, in the spotlight. I don't know that we were going to dabble too deeply into the women's softball tournament, although if Tony's back with us this week, which is a possibility.
Much better. Yeah, he's doing well. Everything's going on. His schedule is sort of cleared up a little bit. I think he's going to be able to get back into the routine.
Okay. All right. Good. That would be great because he would be one to address that because his beloved Florida State Seminoles, which you don't really care about the Florida State Seminoles women's softball team, as is probably the case with the majority of sports fans out there. No, I mean it's nice. Like I said, I mean it's great. I am the ultimate advocate for women's sports and women playing sports. I've always been that way. I've said it a zillion times. I feel like young guys, had a bonding experience through sports that what was extremely valuable, and the women weren't, in a position to take advantage of these opportunities. Because women's sports just were not emphasized like that. I don't know. Did Title IX change everything, Lubie? Is it possible? I remember
things up.
The outrage that men's teams had and coaches had in high schools in California when Title IX was being implemented. They were absolutely screaming that this was going to ruin high school sports in California. Most of the coaches out there felt that way, the male coaches. And I think has it really ruined anything? I don't know what's really changed for the negative when it comes to men's sports, but it certainly seems to have opened some doors on the women's side. No.
Yeah, no, I mean it's definitely. I don't know if it's leveled anything, but at least it's nice to see women have a chance.
They've become extremely prominent all across the board when it comes to sporting endeavors, including, almost dominating now on the announcing side, where you have more and more women coming into the field every day, and very little reluctance on the part of the networks not to take advantage of that. To the point where is there not a woman that is doing color commentary on the NHL games on ESPN with Steve Levy?
100%. Yep.
RJ McCluskey or something. I mean, it has a name like a professional bowler.
Nice.
I don't know, but I don't know. I really wasn't able to decipher. Seems knowledgeable though. I mean, it's a bold move. A female hockey commentator, and you have any number of sideline reporters that are doing a very good job asking insightful questions. And the hockey guys are willing to give you, their time, and their answers are fairly deep in response, during games. Whereas the basketball coaches, you get your share that are talkative and will say something, even though the question may not even demand that insightful of an answer. But then you get your Thibodeau's, who he couldn't. The last thing he wanted to do was answer those questions, right? Snot coming out of his nose, the 3-day growth. I mean, he just looked like a wreck. All right, so very exciting times here for the South Florida sports fan. I'm glad we're on board with that. It was great. Made for a good peel yourself off the mat Monday. I'm looking very much forward to these games. I'm kind of a little bit, disappointed that they're so far away. Aren't you, Lubie? Would like to see this thing crank right away with this. I guess you couldn't have the Celtics play tonight, obviously.
For the Heat, I'm very happy because they have injury issues, and the more time they have, the more it gives Butler a chance to be 100%, and the more it gives a shot that Hero sees the court.
Whose hand will heal up quicker, Tyler Hero's or mine?
Probably yours. That's the
mine wasn't broken. I mean, that's the thing. Nobody knows what this is. I think I got bit by a jellyfish. Maybe that was it. I'm not sure what the heck this is. But, Tyler Hero, there's no chance he's going to play in this series, is there?
Probably not. No. It's more finals. But the more time you have, the more chance there is for him to get out there. Who knows?
Look how close it was last year between these two teams.
Yeah, it was very close. And Lowry wasn't really a factor. He's playing much better now than he played last year. So, the Celtics are better. The Celtics have a deeper bench and getting a Brogdon. So, I don't know.
They seem to have more guys that are a genuine, consistent threat on these Celtics.
Well, the Heat's have
scoring
been horrendous. The Heat were getting consistency from Vincent and Martin and even Love in the first round, and then the second round they were pathetic. The Celtics guys don't fall off a cliff like that. Like, I'll give them credit; they're a lot more consistent. Yeah, 100%. So
pretty good foundation for a
we'll
team. All right, we'll see what happens. That's all very exciting. All right, later on, Mike Mayo's Lunchbox, 12 o'clock today here in South Florida Live. We'll join you again tomorrow, and you can catch us on 5 Reasons Sports Network a couple of times, including the Defo on 5 segment that we now do every day. So great to have that affiliation and platform, a little springboard for success with one Ethan Scoop Skolnick's outfit, 5 Reasons. And they have to be all over it, man, because that is kind of like Heat Nation extended. Real genesis of that whole Five Nations, Sports Network or Five Reasons Sports Network movement is built around the absolute passion for the Miami Heat that their fans have. So they'll be very much in play, and we're happy to be a part of that. All right, we'll see you next time. Thanks, Mike Louie Lubitz. Great job. And thanks to Grant Long for joining us, and also Brett Tesser, the agent of the Stars, who's mostly been our hockey correspondent lately. So, and that's been good. That's been an asset. We'll see you next time as we leave you now that.
The time.
It's 9:01.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.